I bought this journal earlier today with the last of my money. I'm going to be using it a lot now, so I'll have it for when I want to look back on memories, or if I need to remember something. It also serves as kind of an autobiography, I guess. So if this is going to be an autobiography, I guess I'll write about my life up until now. Everybody eventually learns that the world can be a dark, cruel place. Most people find out slowly, through age and others' experiences. I learned this fact firsthand 5 years ago. My name is Jack, but nobody's called me that in years. They just call me Red. I live alone with my mother. I never knew my dad. My older brother, Jasper, did though. He didn't talk about Dad a lot, but he did tell me that Dad was a good man, that he died in a war, that he has no doubt that Dad would be proud of me. I didn't know much or care much about most of that, to be honest. I didn't know him, and I never would. What I did care about, however, was whether my brother was proud of me. I idolized Jasper. He was the best older brother anyone could wish for. On top of that, he was genuinely a good person. He'd always go out of his way to help anyone who needed it, any way that he could. He never expected a reward. He was just happy to do it. His kindness would, ironically, be what brought him to the end of his life. Jasper took off one day around noon to help one of his friends, Derek, look for their pet. Our mother was alright with it, but told him to be back by 3:30. Well, 3:30 came around and my brother hadn't come home. My mother was annoyed, but said he'll probably be back soon. By 5, she was worried and called Derek's house. Derek's parents hadn't seen either of them and were just as worried. They ended up gathering a search party to go look for them. I was told by my mother to stay home and wait for either Jasper or her, but I didn't listen. I wish that I had. They were searching all over town, but I had a different idea. I took off in the woods of our little town, figuring that somebody should check there. About 10 minutes later, I made it to the end of the woods, and I found my brother and Derek. Or rather, I should say that I found what was left of them. They were dead, lying in pools of their own blood. They were mangled, almost beyond recognition. There were scratches, cuts, bites, and various other injuries marring their corpses, all over their bodies. Their clothes were tattered and shredded. The only reason that I knew it was them is because Jasper was still wearing his favorite hat. The hat he'd almost never taken off. In fact, I remember when Mom asked him to take it off once. He said, laughing, "I'll take it off when I'm dead, in which case I want Jack to have it." Back to the point, though. I stared at the scene before me, frozen in shock. Eventually, I was able to bring myself to get the search party and bring them to the scene. They concluded that they must have been attacked by what they called the local population, meaning the wild creatures in the forest. My mother started sobbing uncontrollably when she saw the body. They started to take the bodies away, but I told them to wait, and I asked them if I could have my brother's hat, and they, with my mother's permission, agreed. After that day, things changed in my town. Nobody was allowed in the woods, or even to leave town, unless they could protect themselves. My mother, she went into a downward spiral. She was pretty much always drunk, even though she tried to hide it. We argued a lot because of it, and I couldn't stand watching it, so I avoided her whenever possible. I started wearing my brother's hat all the time, just like he did. I swore I'd be at least as good as I could be, and I'd do him proud. People started calling me Red, and it stuck. Even my ID said red. Because my mother was pretty much incapable of doing things most of the time, I had to grow up quick and take care of what I could. But I want to leave this place so damn bad. And tomorrow is my chance. Tomorrow, I turn 11, and I'd overheard my mother and our neighbor talking. And if I'm right, I may be able to leave Pallet Town sooner than I thought.